You are listening to Edvane Stories. Tonight's tale is The Vanishing of Spearhafoc. Spearhafoc was an 11th-century monk, artist and goldsmith, appointed Bishop of London under Edward the Confessor. Before the crown intended for Edward could be completed, Spearhafoc vanished with the king's gold and jewels. History gives no satisfying end to him, no recovery, no trial, no body, only the disappearance. What follows is not history, but an imagined answer to the silence. An explanation for where Spearhafoc went, what bargain he made, and why no man ever found him. Spearhafoc had chosen faith because faith was warm. It gave a man bread before winter, wool before rain, books before ignorance, and gold before ugliness. It set a roof over appetite and called the roof discipline. He had learned the offices, the bend of the head, the solemn mouth, the patient hands, and found that holiness, properly worn, was as useful as any cloak. Now he rode west with Edward's gold hidden close, the jewels wrapped against their own shining accusation, and every mile of road seeming to listen behind him. The king's men would be riding, and the church would not be slower for being holy. A stolen crown was one thing, but a cleric who stole it was an offence they would hunt for the sake of the tale. Let them hunt, he thought. Let Edward whimper to his saints and his foreigners. Let the Godwins stretch their hands over England. He had seen enough of that court, all soft piety and sharper dependence. A king praying while stronger men arranged the kingdom around him. A crown for that, he had muttered when the gold was first counted before him. A circlet for a lamb among dogs? He told himself he had not robbed England. He had denied weakness its ornament. Yet when branches scraped the sky and the road bent towards older country, his hand still went to the hidden weight. Gold had its own pulse in the dark, and he could feel it. His thoughts turned to Euphraina. He had first seen her at Glastonbury the year before, on a day set aside for humility. The poor had been brought into the yard by the abbey wall, where basins stood ready and towels lay folded. Spearhafoc knelt among the brothers and took each foot in turn, washing, drying, and muttering the approved words. He knew how the sight appeared, a learned man lowered before the lowly, a servant of Christ copying his master. The act pleased him because it looked like abasement, and cost him nothing that mattered, save a scraped knee. Then she came forward. She was barefoot, but not beggarly. Mud darkened her ankles and clung beneath her nails, yet she looked as though the earth had sent her, rather than soiled her. Her skirt was plain. Her hair was loose enough to be improper. When she placed her foot in the basin, she did it with the calm of a queen accepting tribute. Spearhafoc looked up despite himself. "You have washed many today," she said, "as duty asks." "And does duty warm the hands?" He should have rebuked her, or laughed gently and gone on with the work. But he closed his hands around her ankle with a care that had nothing to do with washing, and the contact stirred something he had long ago wrapped in vestments and called conquered. Her foot was narrow, strong, and marked by thorn and track. He poured water over it and watched the mud loosen in brown clouds. "You stare," she said, "at what I am washing." "No," said Euphraina, "at what has lowered you." He dried her foot badly, yet she smiled with a pleasure that made him feel discovered. After that he found reasons to see her again, and in time she heard everything he would not confess openly. Edward's weakness, the Godwins, the foreign favourites, the holy simpering of men who mistook fear for grace. He thought she admired his honesty. In reality, Euphranor enjoyed the washing away. The ruined chapel stood where Selwood Forest grew coarse, and the road petered out. Its roof had failed in 3 places, and the rain had gone in for so many winters that the walls smelled musty. Roots had lifted the path, split the threshold, and worked their way beneath the nave, while the saints carved above the door had worn down into blunt faces that no longer looked certain of anything, let alone heaven. Euphranor was waiting within, though waiting was not quite the word. She seemed to belong to the ruin in the way moss belonged to the stone. Spearhafoc came to her stiff from the saddle, his horse lathered, his clothes marked by bramble and dust, and the stolen weight strapped close beneath his cloak. "You are late," she said. "I am hunted." That is often the way with men who take what shines. He tried to smile at that, because he wanted the old ease between them, the Glastonbury shadow of it, the secret hours in which his robe had become only cloth, and his complaints had seemed like wisdom. He told her the king's men would be behind him, and the church would be sending word ahead. He needed walls that would not speak, ground that would not give up footprints, and a place where even Edward's reach would be hindered. Euphranor's eyes moved immediately to the hidden treasure. "You brought it?" "I brought what I promised." "What you stole," she said, grinning. Spearhafoc answered as he had answered in his own mind through every mile of his flight. Edward was too weak to wear such gold, too saint-ridden, too softened by favourites and Godwin hands. A crown placed upon such a head would only make his weakness shine. Euphranor let him spend the anger. Then she came close enough for him to smell the warm earthiness of her skin. "Say what you came for," she said. "Not what you have told yourself. What you want." "Shelter." "For a night?" "For as long as it takes." She laughed. "For men to forget gold." He looked away from her, towards the blind saints, the cracked altar, and the forest crowding the empty windows. The old stones had no comfort left in them. The place seemed to be listening from beneath itself. "Then keep me beyond them," he said. "Beyond Edward's riders, beyond the bishop's letters, beyond every road where a man may be seen and taken." Euphranor watched him for a moment, and the smile that came was not loving. "That is shelter. You did not steal a king's gold for shelter, Spearhafoc." The chapel seemed to close in around him. He could feel the whole of England closing at his back. "Just make me vanish from England," he said. Euphranor led him behind the altar, where bracken had come through the floor, and the roots of an ash had made a fist beneath the flags. There was no chest there, no hollow in the wall, no door disguised by fallen stone. Only a slab darker than the rest, sunk hard into the ground, as if the chapel had been built around it. She bent and set her fingers to its edge. "No woman lifts that," he said. Euphranor glanced back at him. "It opens for what is owed." The slab rose without scrape or effort. Beneath it was yellow, so fierce and depthless that Spearhafoc had to put a hand across his eyes. It was not fire, though it burned his sight. Nor was it molten metal, though gold seemed to move within it. He saw no bottom, he heard no water. The light climbed the ruined walls and filled the worn mouths of the saints until they looked gilded and afraid. Spearhafoc was presently able to stare into it, and he felt the old hunger. Here was safety, he thought. Here was wealth beyond counting, a hidden country under the skin of England, a place where Edward's men and the church's letters could never follow. He laughed loudly, with relief. Euphranor took the wrapped treasure from him. The cloth opened in her hands, and the jewels made their small, bright accusations in the yellow glare. "All of it," she said. He gave the last pouch over, though his fingers resisted like sinners at a reliquary. She cast the gold and jewels into the depth. They did not fall as they should have. There was no clatter, no ringing, no final sound of treasure meeting stone. The yellow opened, accepted, and closed upon every stolen piece of it. Spearhafoc waited for her to cover the place again, to speak of paths and hiding, of some old road within the forest by which a man might leave England unseen. But that did not happen. Euphranor stood in the glare with her head slightly lowered, and when she looked up, her eyes had taken the colour from beneath the stone. "You have paid well," she said. The voice was no longer hers. It was deeper and layered, arriving from below the chapel, from under the roots, from some depth that had known gold before kings hammered it thin. Spearhafoc stepped back. The saints above the door stared blindly, and the broken altar threw his shadow across the floor in a shape too narrow for a man. "What road, then?" he asked. Euphranor smiled, but there was no Glastonbury in it. "No road," she snapped. "You asked to vanish from England." The first pain came in his hands. The bones drew tight beneath his skin, narrowing, hardening, making hooks of what had held chalice, pen, rain, and woman. He cried out, but the sound cracked high in his throat and broke into a shriek that scraped the ruined chapel clean of mercy. Euphranor watched him from the dark. Her eyes had not returned to themselves. He tried to speak Edward's name and could not. He tried God and found only air. The old words scattered before they reached his tongue. Robe, belt, pouch, skin, and pride all seemed to loosen from him in the same dreadful moment, and the chapel rose around his shrinking body. The altar became a cliff. The roots became black ropes. The blind saints looked down through a height of stone and weather. Then the roof was gone, or he was through it. Selwood Forest dropped beneath him in a dark, rough pelt of trees, and the roads beyond it unwound like pale threads across the land. For an instant, some human part of him still knew England. He saw the southeast opened under cloud, the long grey reach towards Kent, the river bends, the outer spread of London, roofs and fields and church towers set out in a world that could no longer seize him by the shoulder. He had vanished. The thought should have been triumph, but it dimmed as soon as it came. Edward went first, then the Godwins, then the church with its warm rooms and solemn lies. Euphranor lasted longer, a woman in a doorway, a foot in his hands, yellow in her eyes. Then even she blurred. Only gold remained. A thatch lit by sunset pulled him down. A stream flashed, and he struck at it. A child's yellow ribbon, a coin in mud, wheat under wind, fox-eye, brooch, candle, leaf. All called. All his life after was descent and failure. Wings beating over England, hunting the stolen brightness that had gone where no sparrowhawk could follow. That was The Vanishing of Spearhafoc by Jonathan B. Edvane. Discover more at edvanestories.com.